it's somebody, whether it's somebody from education sector, or it's someone from colleges. So we've had experts in education from leading schools, we've had experts from colleges joining us, we've had people specific to certain areas like data analytics and so on joining us to give us a view of what the career options there are. But what maybe the idea for this session really came from the fact that my children are now in grade 12, and as they start navigating this journey, I find that a lot of the wisdom and the insights that come from parents are extremely, extremely valuable. And so what we decided is to just do this session as a conversation between parents. Some of you are parents who have students studying abroad, some of you are parents whose students will be applying abroad this year or next. So that's roughly what we are hoping to do here. And as you would know how our session goes, so we're going to start with looking at the US, and then going on to Canada, and then finally to UK. And we'll really keep this freewheeling. So what I'll do is I'll first ask the parents to share a little bit of insights from their experience, and then open it for questions. So of course, nobody has all the answers to all the questions that you may have, and as parents we have so many questions. But feel free to really articulate what it is that might be bothering you. And parents who have students studying abroad, whether or not your name is on the roster, please do share all the insights that you have, because that's always extremely inspiring for all of us. Okay, so if I can request you to please turn your videos on, that would, just make it easier for us to connect with each other, since we do hope to run this webinar as a conversation. So it'll be really nice if videos are on, so we can see, how it's connecting with everybody. All right, so let's start with just sort of understanding where all of you are. And I have a simple poll which I'd like you all to respond to, just sort of to understand what you are looking for. So here goes. You must have a poll on your screens, which I'd like you to respond to, please. Okay, so here we are. And if we can all see, can you see the results? Yeah, so, you know, we've been doing a webinar around best countries to apply for a while. And we do find that, UK and the US stand out a lot. And the US stands out for obvious reasons. It's a leader in every industry in the world, one of the fastest growing economies, so much innovation, so many startups, so much funding, and so many immigrants, highly cosmopolitan. So it still stands up there, even though in the last year, through COVID, it's taken a bit of a beating. UK and Canada both coming up as great alternative options, and we have parents from all of these destinations. India, we don't have a lot of takers right now, as in we don't have a lot of parents sharing their experience in India right now. I know people have questions around how Ashoka works and is OP Jindal worth it, and how should we be looking at. We'll come to that hopefully at another time. Ireland, Singapore are still emerging destinations. It's interesting that there seems to be equal amount of interest over there. So thank you so much for your inputs. Let me ask you one more question before we leave it open to parents to respond to. Um, which is here. Just a minute. Which is really about your concerns, that what primarily concerns you when you are sending your kid abroad. There she is. Yeah. Okay, all right.
Hi.
Hi, Nidhi. Hi. So
Hey,
we've
hi.
just got this poll on the screen about, concerns, and I'm sure Nidhi is one of the parents who will be speaking about the US. And I'm just going to shut this poll now. There it is. And here. So, one of the biggest concerns, as we can see, is of course getting through the best colleges and how do I adjust in a new country. All right, so all the others, of course, they're immigration, settling down, getting a job after college, return on the investment that I'm making. They're all common concerns that all of us parents share. So let's start understanding how it is that we can get a head around this and how other parents have navigated this journey. So we start first with looking at the US, and we have two of our parents who've got children studying in some of the top colleges in the US. There's Nidhi, whose son is studying in Johns Hopkins, and his daughter has just got through Harvard, among other wonderful colleges. And we have Akhil Kabu. Akhil's son is studying in GeorgiaTech. And maybe both of you can just briefly introduce yourselves and also give us a little bit of overview of your journey. So, Akhil, perhaps you would like to go first. Just tell us a little bit about, how it went for you. But just start with a little 2-minute introduction of, yourself and Aditya.
Sure. Thanks, Richa, for this opportunity. So, my name is Akhil, and I'm based here in Delhi. I work for a software industry. It's an MNC, and I've been in this industry for quite long. Worked in different companies. My son passed out in 2021 from Tagore International at Vasant Vihar in New Delhi. He had a CBSE um, uh, course that he completed from there. Our journey with we started in 2020, mid of 2020, I would say, when he just passed out from his 11th, and we were looking at various different options. Chaotic time, I would say. We were dealing with COVID for the first time, and there were a lot of uncertainties regarding the whole process. Whether the college is going to be online, offline, hybrid, whether at all it is worth taking the risk. Was it a good time to apply? Should we wait for some more time for things to improve and then apply? So while in midst of all this chaos, we started looking at the options, and we kind of met a few consulting organizations in similar field. And I would say that my interactions with Richa and Poonam really helped us make the decision. I found them to be flexible in their approach. They were ready to tailor the whole thing in the limited timeline that we had to make the cut. And I would really retrospectively speaking wish that we would have started earlier, because it would have given us some space and some more time to really think through the whole thing. But any I think yeah, Richa, you would.
No, not to you. I was just trying to get someone to get the fan going here. Go on.
Okay, no problem. Sorry. So with that decision taken, I think the whole process was done in a very systematic manner. We started from scratch. I think the team at we started to look at the profile of the kid and his aspirations. They kind of mapped out which are the colleges that we should keep in our list for US and Canada. That were two countries that we wanted to focus. So, and also gave some feedback about whether we should take a retest on SAT or not. So while Aditya had taken a test earlier for SAT, his score was not that great. So Richa kind of pushed him to take another test, and again during COVID it was very difficult to really find a slot to take the test and stuff. But somehow we managed that whole thing, and Aditya did get a better score in the second attempt. That was one. And I would say, score apart, there is a lot that really goes in the whole admission process when it comes to colleges in US and Canada, and I'm sure in other countries as well. It's about bringing out the personality and the character of the child, and that is where the key differentiator of putting your SOPs and essays really comes handy. That's the most important thing I would say, beyond the SAT score and the grades that the kid has, is how do you really bring out a compelling story about the kid and why he wants to join that college, and what really differentiates him from others, and how will the kid really add value to the college. I think that's the most important thing, and that's where I think Nilanjana and Richa really helped Aditya to bring out the best story, I would say, that could be taken to these colleges. So I think that was one key thing that I remember of. They also helped us in providing inputs for letter of recommendations, which is another big area which makes a difference. I think today's generations, they tend to do a lot of things, a lot of activities in school and outside too. I think the team here actually helped bring out the best aspects of the student that could be highlighted in the recommendation from the teacher. That really helped again sharpen the whole profile of the kid. Then obviously the whole I don't want to eat the whole time here.
No, no, Aditya, Akhil, we will come back to you with, very specific questions,
Sure,
because
sure.
I'm sure, a lot of people have similar aspirations, and the fact that Aditya made it into Georgia Tech and some of the other leading universities also, but also about how he's settling down. We'll come back to you in just a minute or so, Akhil.
Yeah.
Nidhi is another parent whose son is already in the US and daughter is going to the US. So, Nidhi, if you can just give us a quick intro overview.
Sure. Hi, everyone. This is Nidhi. I'm based in Bangalore. So I have two examples. One is pre-COVID and one is sort of during and post-COVID. My son finished school in 2019. Both my children have been in the international, they followed the IB curriculum. Can talk more about that, and also did a few AP exams as well. My son is doing biomolecular engineering. That is something that was his passion. And so his selection of universities and where he would apply and what he would apply for was driven by that interest. And his extracurriculars were also of that nature. My daughter was applying for computer science or computational biology. And so while there was an overlap, her focus was very different. My son is actually headed to medicine now, and she is totally against that. It's been interesting, and you learn that with each child, you have to handle things a little differently. You have to figure out what each has as strengths, how they interact with their counselors differently, and so who's the right person to work with them. And as Akhil was saying, right, the key things to focus on were the SAT and the other exam preps, the academics for 11th grade, your extracurriculars, because they talk to who you are when you're not studying. And finally, how you put that story together in your essays, because, when you're doing all of that, your experiences and how they come through, that matters. And I think those essays are where the counseling help really comes through, because the counselors know what exactly is it that a school wants to know about the child, since they've been interacting with those colleges for years.
Right. Thank you so much, Nidhi. Her children are, of course, extremely motivated and self-driven, as you can see by their selection of courses. Also, there's a lot of depth and a lot of work that they're doing by themselves. And I know one of the questions that a lot of parents would have in their head is that how do you bring up such a driven child? But we will come back to those questions in just a minute, Nidhi. We do have Shubhra. I know you've joined here as a participant, but you would have a lot of insights also. If you can just briefly introduce yourself and what both your kids are doing, and then we can move to questions specifically from people.
Hi, everybody. So my husband and I, so Joy has also joined in. We have two boys. The older one, of course, is in the US. He's doing his Bachelor's of Business Administration. So like Nidhi mentioned, a very different area of interest. And that was in 2018. So very much pre-COVID. And then the younger one, completely on the other end of the spectrum, personality-wise, as well as his selection of courses. He's more interested in, he's applying for and has got through computer science. And this is at the University of Michigan at Ann Arbor. So two very different personalities, very different interests, and hence very different experience as well for us as parents. And of course, while the older one is there, for the younger one, we do still have the same set of questions and aspirations, and as also little apprehensions as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shubhra. And lastly, before we go into more specific questions, two of the senior counselors on our team who've also joined us, Poonam Rawal and Romi Malhotra, also are parents of kids who, are studying and have studied in the US. So a lot of specific questions can be answered about studying in the US over here. So let me first start with adjustment issues, that how supportive is the US environment for a foreign student going and settling down over there? How difficult did you find, given the fact that a lot of Indian parents sometimes see the US as a big bad world and that you have to be competitive and you have to settle down quickly. So how difficult did you find the adjustment? And just a sort of an additional thing to that what do you think is key to prepare the child so that the child adjusts well? So perhaps Akhil, maybe you can give us a view on that.
Yeah, sure. I think for Aditya, at least, since he was very clear about where he wants to pursue and what he wants to pursue, it wasn't that big a challenge for him to really adjust. So he was very, very clear in his mind. And as kids, he had traveled before to US a number of times, so he knew what really to expect at a very high level. But again, because of COVID, from India for the first time, he had to travel alone. So that was a big, question mark in our mind that time. Somehow, I think we were more apprehensive and more concerned. But on his own, I think Adhya was pretty clear of how he wants to land there and stuff. So obviously landing is one part, and then getting into the college and finding your roommate in the dorm and trying to adjust into the new culture. I think that was, I would say, initial 1 to 2 months time for him to adjust, especially not only culture, even food. You have a typical choices that you really want to have, but you're forced to have something else. So that kind of took time, but eventually I think they kind of settled down. They're flexible, more open to adjust, I would say. In nutshell, I don't think it was a big challenge to land and get adjusted to the whole culture there.
Right, wonderful. That's great to know. Aditya also is, I think, a very happy-go-lucky, self-driven kind of a strong character. So that's great to know that he settled easily. Nidhi, any tips that you have on, settling down in a foreign culture in the US? So I believe your children are US citizens, but still that they may have had some adjustment issues.
Yeah, I think for them also, it's a realization of what it is, because they know that they are American citizens, but are they truly American? Since they grew up in India, they realize when they meet other people that perhaps not. But there's such a lot of diversity on campuses now, right? So you have a lot of Asian students. And then you have, even among people with Indian connections, there are kids who have grown up in India and going to the US for the first time. There are people like us who have lived in the US, came to India and now are going there. And then there are Indian or Southeast Asian origin kids who were born and brought up in the US. And so, with that Indian connection itself, there are 3 different kinds of segments, I would say. But then the kids learn to figure out their type of person, because it really doesn't matter in terms of nationality, unless, it's things like food, certain specific aspects of culture. Because once you get into classes and you start interacting, I know your personality really does affect this, whether, how much of an introvert you are, whether you like going to events or not. So there is in the fairly large universities, and most of the ones we look at, there are opportunities for everyone to find their groove. It might take someone a little more time, others a little less, but, to be there with them and to support them through that, to have frequent interaction. So we talk to our son, still pretty much, 3 to 5 times in a week. And that's something that not all kids do. But if you figure out what your child needs and how connected they need to be and how connected you need to be, to just be aware that they're in a safe place, they're comfortable. So that's important. I think one of the things for vegetarians, there are some issues in certain aspects, and so as parents you tend to worry about that part, but again, there are enough options there for them to figure out. The one thing that luckily, touch wood, I haven't had to worry about is, if you need medical assistance, what is medical insurance like? How does the university cover it for your child? And so where should they go if they need to reach out to somebody?
Right. Absolutely. So Shubhra, I was about to address this question to you and you've already answered it over there, which is, one of the parents is asking, so perhaps I can ask Akhil and Nidhi their views also, that for essays and SOPs, is it a good idea to start early in July, August, at the time the process starts in October? We typically start the process of thinking in April itself, at least for the main basic common app essay and statement of purpose. So there's lots of time to go back and forth to, scrap a whole approach and say, this is okay, let's just restart, this is not working, let's do something more. So it brings the panic down, we feel, Saroni. But Nidhi, Akhil, to you, did you guys really start early, and what do you think really worked?
I think the one thing that I did consciously try to start early for my second one was to take the SAT earlier. And I learned that from a colleague, because I had her take it in 10th grade itself. This was before COVID hit, just to do a baselining. And that helped a lot, because then it was out of the way. Didn't have to worry about that as, one more thing to stress about. And otherwise on the essays, yes, I would say that, we were from April onwards talking about what it would take to get things together, what the Common App would be about. But, the kids are so busy in the summer that it happens when it happens. You try to start early, but sometimes everything is still last minute.
Yeah, some things work, some things don't.
Yeah.
So, the one question I wanted to ask all the US parents, and Shubhra, you as well, is that, there's so many balls up in the air, right? There is, there are projects that the student is doing. Your grades are really very critical. And both Shubhra and Nidhi are IB parents, where, the pressure is a little bit higher. Then there is SAT, ACT. And then there is, the rest of your life, right? Like Shubhra's son was a swimmer. And there's everything else that you are doing. So often stress levels on students have found in grade 11 and 12 become quite bad, and I'm sure parents will benefit from some insights. So Shubhra, if I can address this to you first, that how do you help a child balance it and sort of keep their feet on the ground?
Wow, I think it depends person to person, really, because I think the important piece is really to spend some time and have open conversations. And I think, obviously they will need to have social kind of, and COVID made it really bad for the younger one, whereas the older one had a lot more social engagements. But for the younger one, it is a little easier in the sense he didn't have swimming in the mornings, which the older one had. So it took away 2-3 hours of the day. But the the downside was you didn't have, the aspects which probably the kids need in the support system. But I think for our younger son, I think what really helped was just to think through and plan certain broad, like, I don't want to say that you can plan every bit, but really have some sense around the time frames. And I think it's important for parents to have clarity. Probably we can do a little bit of the steering. That's about it. But I think that helps to have thought through of when especially in the IB curriculum, you have the IAs, you have the EE, you have the you know, it's just very, very loaded in 12th grade. So, and of course, whatever anyone says, grades are absolutely essential. So I think for us, that was the first thing which we told our son is that, you know, keep at it and everything else can come, but the grades need to be up there because that's one parameter that can easily go off the radar when you're doing other more exciting things, right? So, but I think it's just about regularity and consistency. And luckily, our younger son, for some reason, I think maybe the distractions were less, but he was able to be fairly planned, and at consistency and regularity. I don't think there is anything else that I can think of at least.
Wonderful. Thank you, Shubhra. Nidhi, any quick insights from you on this, on handling stress levels?
Yeah, I think everyone needs to be really balanced and grounded, and you have to take your foot off the pedal at times and just let the kids know. I mean, if the kid is a kind who stresses a lot, and I think between boys and girls, maybe girls tend to do that more because boys will tend to chill a little more, whereas the girls will be more worried about, I need to do ABCD thing, there's so much to do, blah, blah, blah. So with them, it was okay. It's okay if you just do this and, you know, don't stress out about, everything, but just focus on the few important ones. And for parents, it's like, you know, you need a support system too. So have your set of parents to talk to. The counselor is also you became a support system for me because, you know, I would talk about my frustrations and I would be told that, you know, it's okay. She's has things under control. Don't worry. So I guess it's a journey that the whole family is on, and obviously the child is the most stressed, but you have to sort of optimize all of those things.
Wonderful, Nidhi. Thank you so much. So, this SAT, ACT question. So, when it comes to computer science, Akhil, both you and Shubhra, your students, your kids are studying computer science. Do you have a view on SAT, ACT? Did you get other inputs on this?
Yeah, so while Aditya actually ended up taking SAT, but we did also kind of contemplate taking ACT also. I think somewhere down the line we realized that since he had already taken SAT once before, it was better to remain focused on SAT and just get done with it. Also, there are free assessment tests available online where the kid can actually attempt both SAT and ACT and get a preliminary score. That kind of will give some kind of inclination of which one really is the right thing for the kid. I think one of the two is focused more on, the essays are focused more on science, and the other one is a little more about art and stuff like that, So it's about the liking of the child, I would say. More or less the tests are mostly similar.
Yeah, I think ACT is the one with a science comprehension component. So, sometimes people say when you're looking at science, that helps. But I think that it's helping would be such a negligible impact that it's more about seeing where you feel your child can perform better. I think that's one of the main things that should be looked at. Shubhra, any inputs from you on that?
No, nothing new.
All right, great. So, then let me move a little, Shubhra and Nidhi, both of you, as you have students who are graduating. Shubhra, I believe your older son has already graduated from college, right?
No, he'll do that end of the month.
He's graduating this year. Nidhi, how about you? Aniket is graduating when?
He will finish in December, so graduate, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
as students are finishing college, I'm sure that right now for us parents where kids are in grade 10 and grade 11, we are only thinking of getting them into college, right? But as they start getting out of college, there is a whole new set of concerns that a parent has to be careful about and what comes up. So can you give us a little bit of view on how that last graduation year would really work for the student, and what kind of inputs do you think a parent should provide to their student to really make the most of it as they're getting out of college? In the sense that, placement opportunities, reaching out to companies, are they just doing it on their own? How supportive is the college?
I think at least for our older son, the college had a whole network, right? I mean, they have a counselor. They also have a placement cell, and I mean, whatever, they have the website which keeps posting jobs, and and there's a buzz. I think the important thing is to stay connected. I mean, of course, in our son's case, he didn't have, he was not part of a club that also supported. But I think that's an important piece. If you think you can be part of a relevant club, then those networks really do hook you up and you get plugged in. So in our case, I think our older son did things largely by the infra that the college provided, but I think it comes a little before the graduating year as well, because they do their internship, right? And I think that piece is where they get a really socialized and also much more active on the recruitment piece. Let's take away the COVID years, because things were a little topsy-turvy there. But I think my sense is, if the college has an established placement and good network, and the companies are actually posting their jobs, that's definitely one piece that can help and really supports kids. If that isn't the case, then I won't be able to have any idea right now, because in our case, in our son's case, the internship he did was through campus, the opportunity. And then, of course, he's also joining that same firm. So that's my limited insight.
That
So
works
I've,
out. So, I think Suman was asking exactly that question, that colleges have a lot of promises about placement support and internship opportunities online. And so what I'm hearing from you, Shubhra, is that really worked the way they had promised that it would work.
At least in my son's case, older son, and I know a lot of his friends also have used the same, because I keep in touch with him about his friends, and they're all using that network or whatever, that portal, and that seems to get them hooked up to at least the first meetings. And then, of course, connecting, networking through LinkedIn, reaching out to alumni through that. Once you've applied, I think all those are steps that will come. But in his case, he leaned heavily on the college support.
Nidhi, has that been your experience too?
So I wouldn't know a lot about this from firsthand experience, but I think it's across the board. One is the child has to show that initiative of connecting with, either seniors or reaching out to and figuring out what the campus has to offer, because campuses do offer a lot of this. So and I think there is also some facility which is spread across several campuses. I forget the name. It's Lifeline or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so
there's an organization that's a funded business that's doing this across a lot of college campuses.
So because my son is more, he is keen on medicine. So his focus was more on trying to get research opportunities. So he's been working in a lab. And then he wanted to shadow a few doctors. So he wrote to doctors over there, and, they responded. So that way, the child should feel free to do a lot of that outreach on their own. And the campuses do that. At the same time, I know of kids from Berkeley and Stanford where the parents have, been reaching out and saying, hey, can I find an internship for my child? So I've seen that happen as well. I don't know if that was because the child was coming back to India and so they wanted it specifically here, but one of them is actually looking for internships in the US. Yeah.
I would also imagine that, sorry, Akhil, go on.
Yeah, for Adhya, though he's in first year right now, I think the college did help him with finding the internship. They had a college fair and the kids could apply, and there was an interview process and stuff. And the whole thing about getting the permission to really work as an Indian citizen in US during the internship, that was facilitated by college. They also are now helping him with a social security number, because that's important, because it's a paid internship. So all that thing really comes into play from the college side. I think they are well versed with helping students land.
What I wanted to add here is that, see, I would also imagine that the experience of, Shubhra is in UMich, Akhil is talking about GeorgiaTech, and Nidhi is largely talking about Johns Hopkins, and these are really premier institutes, and a lot of their network would probably be extremely powerful and they'd be extremely connected universities. So some of this answer may also depend on the level of the university and how connected and well known the brand of that university is. I'm just sort of adding that from my end because I do think that we need to filter your responses from that lens as well. Okay, so let me get to this question of ROI that Nisha is asking. Now when parents are choosing the US, and very soon we're going to start talking about Canada, which sometimes wins from that ROI perspective, right? Return on investment. So when a lot of parents are choosing destinations, the US is of course the most expensive and significantly more expensive, especially if you look at premier institutes there. Significantly more expensive than other destinations, and at the same time unless your kid is a US citizen, you are struggling with the whole process of H1B visas, getting jobs, settling down there and so on. We keep hearing stories of students coming back. So how did you work this out in your head when you took the decision to send your kid abroad? Akhil, if you can start from that ROI perspective.
It's a difficult call, I would say. Ultimately, it boils down to the whole experience that you want your son or your kid to have. There are opportunities in India also. There are good colleges here, and you always have a choice of doing a postgrad in US and do an undergrad here. But in terms of if you are finally looking at countries like US or Canada, the earlier your kid starts and get adjusted to the whole culture and the place and find his own network there, you tend to take that bet finally. I think it's a personal choice, in that sense. ROI wise, it is expensive. US is expensive. Canada also is right there almost in comparison to say India. But ultimately, it boils down to what kind of experience you want the kid to have, because when you are sending your kid to colleges in US and Canada, I would say that you kind of have a best infrastructure there and best opportunities for the kid.
Shubhra, any views from you on this?
No, I think in our case, I think our focus was really to see, you're right. I mean, actually what Akhil said is, our son was applying for a bachelor's in business, and India has some couple of really good options. But he's born in the US. So we were kind of, we were still debating when to send him. So the option was to send him for an undergrad or a postgrad. And I think my husband had an interesting insight, exactly what Akhil said, which is really, eventually if that's where he want to work, and, he wants to going into the banking area. So, the kind of opportunities and the kind of deals and the kind of work you get to do is really at a different level. So if that is the case, it's better he acclimatizes. He's spent a large part of his growing up in India. So I think it was really important that he gets more embedded into the the way things work, create his own network, connect with people, learn the ways of literally surviving there and thriving there. So for us, actually, that was a critical piece, even though I would have preferred he stay here. In terms of sheer, education per se, but I think the other aspects really played a big role for him and for our decision. And for the younger one, it was, I think, a lot easier because the older one is there. So you want the younger child to at least be in the same country so that it makes it a little more easy for you. And of course, it's also, again, the college really is important. So if you get into a really good college in Canada or the UK, then obviously we would have gone for it. But for us, we were trying to kind of put our eggs in one country.
Right. No, that makes sense. But what I'm also hearing from both of you, I mean, Nidhi, not that I've heard you, but, of course, being a US citizen, I guess the return on that investment is a little easy. So let me at this point also bring in my colleague Poonam. Poonam, you are there, right? So Poonam's children actually have a slightly different situation in the sense of studying non-STEM subjects. So those parents who are still applying this year, I don't know if you're aware of the distinction between STEM and non-STEM, which basically applies to the US. That in the US, if you've studied a STEM course in your grade in college, then you have you can work on your student visa for 3 years. It's called optional practical training. So you have 3 years of optional practical training. While if your kid is a non-STEM student, then you have 1 year of optional practical training. Now, both the Poonam children are, one is already finished a non-STEM course and one is finishing now. So from the return on investment perspective, Poonam, how does it work to, have a non-STEM course in the US? Poonam, you're on mute.
Yeah, hi. Hello, everybody. So when we took this decision for our elder daughter, it was more about her, that she wanted to experience the world and she wanted to travel to the US and have a more immersive college experience, not just about academics, but also about developing every facet of her life. And that was one of the reasons that we decided for US. Now, comparing STEM and non-STEM, yes, STEM is a specialized field and companies want to sponsor skills that are not easily available in the US. And companies want to invest in people who will be staying longer because the company knows that you have a 3-year visa and it's better to invest in you, in a student who's a STEM student, and so that their spends on training and development is rationalized. But saying that, non-STEM students have good opportunities, though they have to work slightly harder, but they have to, prove their worth. It really depends on how hard you work to get those internships. So it starts from day one on how you start building your resume. And every year, it's a lot of work, year by year, to find those internships. Though it's hard to get, but you need to network, you need to reach out to people, you need to have a good resume, you need to keep adding to your resume. So there is a lot of work that is involved to find these internships and to be able to convert them into a job offer. So there is a lot of campus placement that happens in the universities, but still the student has to make a lot of effort themselves of finding those right opportunities. So my daughter who graduated from the business school of University of Massachusetts Amherst, which is the Eisenberg School of Business, she did her economics with finance. So the internship that she found for herself in the 3rd year, that actually converted into a job offer. But all the 3 years that she's worked, right from year 1, year 2, year 3, she put in a lot of work to build her resume, to network and connect with a lot of people. That is very important. No matter, there might be a lot of job placements and campus placements happening at the campus, but there's a lot of technicalities for the international students, for companies to sponsor your visa. That's the most important thing. You get to the final round of interview and the company says, oh, sorry, I just missed it. You're an international student. We'll not like to proceed further. So there are these kind of situations. So you have to keep yourself motivated, charged, and just keep moving on with finding the right opportunities.
Wonderful, thank you. Thanks. So, we've heard a lot from parents who are based in the US, whose kids are studying in the US. Now, I want to bring in Samya, Paromita, and Sandeep over here. And firstly, thank you so much for joining. Now, the interesting thing about these parents is that their children applied to both the US and Canada and got offers from both the US and Canada, and then they decided to send their child to Canada, right? So let me start. Samya, if you can please just come in and briefly first just give a quick intro and overview, and then tell us why you decided on Canada.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Richa, for having us. So my son Kabir, he has joined in 2021, just this year, University of Toronto, and he has joined computer science, math statistics department, and computer science is what he wants to do. And he is an IB student and has always been on the STEM side throughout his life. So, so to your question, Richa, it was very interesting. We did look at US and Canada because, he's a STEM child, and we know the opportunities there are just great, especially in the US. And so there were 2-3 things, and actually, other than us, it was more Kabir's decision eventually that he wanted to go to Canada, and his reasoning I'll just share with you, and we kind of agreed with him. There were 2-3 things why he preferred Canada. One was that, he did not want to. Okay, so let me just take you through how this whole thing came through. And I think Richa and Ainomi played a very important role in helping Kabir find himself, because we signed up with them very early on in class 9th. And that time we as parents were very confused. We thought that he has to have an all-rounder kind of a profile. How will he do? He's very science oriented. He's not doing MUN. He's not doing sports, etc. So what what Richa and team helped us in understanding is help him and us understand that you don't have to change the personality of the child. Be yourself, but make sure that you showcase therefore that helped him to understand himself. What do I want to do? What is the kind of place I'll be happy in? And so all those inputs, I think, through 9, 10th, 11th, 12th helped him finally in class 11 to figure and say, listen, the kind of person that I am, he is more into studies, more into research, and he's more of an introvert kind of a person. So all these, through these years, what he understood was that, okay, let me showcase. So in class 10th, he did his internships with Cisco, then he did his internship with Intel. So he was trying to create a profile to showcase who he was. And throughout he said that I do not want to do the SAT and ACT because it takes away from my time in these more research kind of things. And so that was one thing why he did not, that's a very funny reason for not looking at US, but he said, listen, I'm more academics oriented, and Canada and UK both are more into academics. They do not have the SAT, ACT thing. And he said that also in the first year in the US, you have a lot of other subjects. And he said, listen, I now just want to jump into focus studies in computer science. I don't want to do American history. I don't want to do this and that. And so the academic system of Canada is different in that sense, that you do have English and a few other things, but you don't have a lot of liberal art kind of things in the first year. So that really appealed to him because he was very focused on what he wants to do. So that was one reason why he chose Canada. And the other thing was also, in terms of the profile of the child. So he's more in, somehow he had this impression that Canada is more being the political atmosphere. I mean, these were his considerations. I'm just sharing he felt it was more of a, welcoming place, less of, the aggression and the rat race that you have to do in the US. So he was more into the academic studies, that sort of thing. So that's the other reason why he preferred. The reason why we preferred Canada is because we had family and a lot of family in Toronto. So that is, and being the only son, we felt that he will need that support in the first year. So, so it kind of evolved as he did all the counseling with Richa and all. And by class 11 and 12, we decided, of course, we made him apply to the US because the opportunities in Canada are few. The number of very good top colleges are few compared to the US. So as a backup, we did apply. Of course, he got through good offers in UK, US, and Canada, but his heart was in Canada. I don't know if I've answered that question.
Yes. You certainly have answered it, Samya, and it's a very good thought because you've looked at three different reasons why Canada really worked out for you, and some of them are personal to your situation and to your son's personality as well. I want to ask Paromita the same question because same thing. Paromita had good offers from the US, for your older kid, and then you decided that we will go, and I believe that she's really happy there. So, Paromita, if you can just shed some light on how you took that call. Paramita, I think you are on mute. And once
Yeah,
before
sorry.
you start, I want to thank you for just joining us. I know you've been so sick since yesterday, and
Yeah,
thank you so much
just
for me.
hoping it's not the big C. But anyway.
It won't be touch. Yeah.
So, no, I wanted to make this effort because, Richa, you really had partnered with us because honestly, we were as confused. And so was our elder daughter, Shaila's journey began with Richa from grade 10, actually a little before grade 10. And Shaila is an IB student, and Richa was, she helped guide us that do we do US, UK, Canada, and if you're confused, let's apply to all three because US is an unconditional, it's a good backup to have. But ultimately, I must say the final decision, I think what I heard from the earlier parent we went with what Shaila wanted to do because she did some of her research. She checked with her peers, she checked with her with her community, her seniors, and we had Richa's advice as well. So just to give you a perspective, Shaila is currently a first-year psychology student. She had both University of Toronto as well as UBC Vancouver as offers, but she finally chose University of British Columbia, Vancouver. And this was entirely honestly, as parents, we said the child has to spend the next 4 years. So she has to be the one who has to be the one who is invested the most and who really has skin in the game when she takes such a decision. Having said that, as parents, we wanted her to go to the US. She had some good offers from there, UK as well. Main consideration was a family. We had no family at all in Canada, but Shaila was absolutely adamant because she actually brought up this whole issue of return on investment. And she also felt for psychology, which is considered a STEM subject, UBC Vancouver was her first choice as opposed to University of Toronto. And she is very happy there. It's a beautiful campus. It's a wonderful university. And I must say very welcoming. But having said that, I think for all parents, I think we've spoken a little bit about adjustment. I can just tell you, 2021 was a tough one for all the kids and for all parents because we couldn't travel with the kids. So these kids have had to, start this entire journey of going to a very far away place, whether it's US or Canada, by themselves, and really deal with all the adjustment issues by themselves. So first year, I think, has been a bit of a challenge from an adjustment perspective because, we are not, okay. So one of the things I need to tell you is that Canada's study permit system, if for all parents who are interested. So as a country, so far our experience has been great. Shaila really likes her university and, she's very happy there. But I think, I'm just going to address issues which perhaps I haven't heard from other parents. The Canadian study permit, if you are clear that you're going to apply to Canada, and they will most likely send you a mail, that please apply by May 15th or something. That was the kind of mail we got saying that, your study permit will come within this time. We ignored that mail because we said, listen, we have US, we have UK, they're just trying to get some money up front from us. We were very confused. But Canadian study permit takes a long time. I think it takes much longer than the US counterparts. At least it did for the 2021 batch, and that's the experience that I've heard. So for all of you parents, you need to keep that in mind, that you need to apply on time. You need to take those decisions on time as far as Canadian, the study permit is concerned. The schools are, I think both UBC and U Toronto are wonderful schools. My niece is going to University of Toronto and they are at par. I think with what we are seeing in the US. And Richa also advised us to go to the top schools. I mean, don't go for schools which are not in the top tier if you're going to opt for Canada. So so number one is the study permit issue. Number two is accommodation. I don't know about, and again, I'm coming from the first year perspective because I think this is, I think accommodation for all you parents who are applying this year, please, when you accept your offer and especially in Canada's case, is that you need to apply for housing as early as you can, because even though first year housing is guaranteed, but if you miss that deadline, which you might, slip up because you're in such a hurry to say yes on the offer, you miss the housing deadline, which we did, by the way, that you are then in a bit of a lurch because, housing is in huge demand and it's very expensive to find housing off campus. So I think that's been a big learning, I think, for parents who are going out. So one is please apply for the study permit. Third is for IB, all the suffering and pain, if I may say so, that your kids are going through right now for IB is all worth it because they get so much of transfer credits in the first term. That adjustment and for these kids who are coming from IB, and this is not to put the CBSE kids down or the ICSE or any other board, they adjust equally quickly. But all I'm saying is all the pain and suffering of the IB, the EE deadlines and all that is worth it because of the transfer credits. So first term for IB kids is, I think, relatively, at least in Shaila's case, she got a whole bunch of transfer credits. So, that was much easier. Third is the weather. I know I haven't heard people talk too much about this, but, our kids are going to be there. And I'll tell you when the blues hit, at least Shaila and a whole bunch of kids in her batch, the Indians, that is. The weather plays a big role, and winter was pretty hard. So, it's gloomy, it's dark, you don't see the sun, there's snow, and Vancouver, it rains a lot. Having said that, it's not as bad, I think, as Toronto, but still it's, each has its minuses and pluses. So the weather is a big one. So I think that is something we didn't realize, and neither did our daughter. So, if you're, Shaila had some an offer from University of California. In hindsight, maybe the sunny weather, I think, that is a factor to consider. The fourth, I think that's, there are other aspects as well, but I think from a first year learning ground aspect, I think first year is the time when the kid, we are experiencing, there is an adjustment because the workload also picks up. IB rigor really academic rigor, yeah.
Paromita, I'm so glad you've picked up on the IB thing, and I will address the weather question back to you, Samya, in just a little bit, because I know the weather in Canada can be a killer and it's something to talk about. But just because both of you are parents of IB students, and Vandana here has this question that I want to address to both of you, which is really about what she's saying is that, do you think kids need to do outside projects apart from the ones that are already part of their curriculum, like the CAS curriculum, creativity, activity, service? So they're doing something through school. Now, just worried about how many projects the kids can manage. So they're doing all this E and they're doing the CAS at school, and then are they supposed to do something on their own as well? What are your views? Shubhra, you could also probably share your views on that.
So would you like me to come in, or?
Yes, Samya, please.
Okay, so I would say, yes, it is important to do stuff outside because, when you talk about SOPs and essays, you are trying to showcase the profile of the child. And this profile you have to build over the previous 2-3 years. Because if, for example, in our case, we want his profile was, okay, I'm a tech kid, I am very interested in computer science. How do you prove that? So you need to show that, yes, you have been interested. I have done internships. I have taken every opportunity within the school. For example, he opted to organize the hackathon in their school. So even the leadership piece came from a tech related aspect, right? So I would say yes, because then what are you going to write in the essay then? You have to give some meat there that I have done these things. And you can do it in the summers, right? So you can plan it in the summers, in the October vacations. So that's how he did it. During October, he even did one business course from Columbia Business School. It was held here in Hyderabad in the summer. So, once he had it in his head that, this is what I will not get admission admission into Canada if I don't have this profile? Then he himself took up these opportunities when they came up. So my answer would be yes.
Right. You in here as well, and I think Vandana was also sort of referring to applying to the US. Do you think that the CAS is enough, or do you think that it's imperative a student does something outside of CAS?
So I think definitely depends on the application or the course you're interested in. And of course, I would recommend, I mean, a project is definitely depends on the area. I mean, my son was more into the computer science thing as well. So he did, and in his case, he didn't have CS in IB. So the strange thing was their school, even though it's a really good school, it didn't offer CS in his 11th and 12th, even though he had it in up to 10th. So for him, actually, he had to really do stuff on his own. We also had COVID. So he used all his time to really pick up the skills. And then he used those, he did some internship, which was offline, online. And then he did do an internship as well. So I certainly recommend, see, if the kids are on the tech side, they'll be very happy to actually go in and meet people and interact in the, you know, in a more applied sense. And of course, in his case, he then used this to develop some games and create his own, sites, websites, and things like that. So I think, you know, I think kids have ideas, and I think it's very, very important that the profile is in line. Of course, if we didn't have COVID, and he would have continued swimming, which is I mean, I don't say it's a project, but I think it's probably a really important piece that I would recommend, that they create something which they enjoy, which they've shown consistency over the years. So in his case, he started swimming at grade 4 and 5. So, you know, he's been swimming every year. It's very unfortunate that in the 2 years that he could have actually really done well and enjoyed himself, he couldn't do that. So my sense is where you can show consistency, commitment, because they don't want to see this, you know, once kar diya and then, you know, it looks good. So I think something which goes in line with the narrative, with the interest, with the personality, and of course, which shows deep, I mean, competence or interest in a particular area. So you will need to do things outside just the curriculum, I think.
Right, got that. No, Shubhra, thank you. I think you're pretty much echoing this what Samya said. Paromita, just if you can also weigh in on this, because you know they're both computer science moms, and yes, computer science is something concrete you can do. You can create an app, you can do some software. But you know, when you were applying for psychology, and I know that you know the IB pressure was also there, and it was COVID. So how do you manage this thing of doing a project outside? How important it is?
I think you helped us, Richa. I mean, for instance, you guided us about her internship in psychology. That was in grade 10 itself. I think it is, I think it is important to continue to do as many projects as you can. And Shaila did do that. In fact, swimming was also one of the things she'd done. She used to play badminton. Unfortunately, all of that came to a halt. But, you know, I'll just echo what you had said, Richa. You had said that, you know, once you apply to the US, and it's like, you know, learning how to drive on an Ambassador, then any other car seems much easier. So it's, you know, once you start building a portfolio for the US, which necessitates that you have to have this all-rounded and, you know, try and do as many projects as you can, which Shaila had a very, you know, rich portfolio as well, that it sort of satisfies the demands of Canadian universities as well. But so despite doing IB, I think you should, the child should, you know, I think the process shouldn't be just in 11th and 12th, especially in 12th when the, you know, the load is maximum, is, you know, from end of 11th onwards. But the first half of grade 11, the end of grade 10, that's when the kid can really amp up and start doing a lot of other stuff. Because, you know, grade 12 is pretty intense. So I'm not sure that will be just piling on too much pressure. At least that was the case in Shaila. But yes, my overall answer would be yes.
Thanks,
try this.
Paromita. So that's like a resounding yes coming from all the parents. And frankly, as a counselor, also I can tell you that it sounds like how will the kid do it, but helping the child manage their time and putting one foot in front of the other. Nothing needs to be as one chunk at one time. You need to keep making a little progress every week. Little. That's why starting early helps, because otherwise everything comes together at once. So if you start early and you keep putting one foot in front of the other, everything doesn't work out perfectly, but by the end a couple of pieces work out, and it also helps you see what are you really good at, what were you able to figure out in all this time. And it's a sort of a self-discovery process that's ultimately quite joyful. And at least as counselors, what we try to make sure is that the kid is not super stressed out, so we keep encouraging them to acha isko chodo chalo ye kar lo, whatever's working, and take it from there. But ultimately, yeah, some steps forward will work. So thank you for that. Samya, I want to come back to this weather question. It's something that really troubles people in Canada. And I've known kids to come back and come back with the horrible stories of saying, ki itni thand hai and we can't talk to anyone, we can't go out, we can't make friends. So your views on that?
So I have a slightly different perspective on this, because Kabir has really adjusted so beautifully. It's amazing from being from Bangalore. So I think it's the preparation in advance. And you guys really helped us with that, because I remember us discussing this with you, Richa. I don't know if you remember, Kabir was also part of that discussion. You did say, okay, you want to go to Canada. I hope you know how cold it is. So he did his own research and he said, listen, whatever the weather is, I'm going to adjust. And at that point, I found it very funny. So how he has, when we went there, and he seemed to be perfectly, I said, listen, how is the weather? He said, look, mom, you just have to wear the right clothes, and everything is air conditioned and also, so we need to prepare that to the kid. So before he left, I got my, our family, our friends over there to speak to him. And they said, listen, it's nothing, just make sure you have the right clothes. And they even helped him buy the right clothes just on landing. And frankly, that's all you need. So when we also went, we just made sure that we are clothed perfect. And actually, the funny thing is that the younger kids, if you're in the right group, they have a ball in winter, because Canada is big on, they were just there in the Winter Olympics. They're very big on winter sports. So if your child is into sports and they can get into the right university things, they just freak out. They've got ice skating, they've got skiing, they've got a tobogganing, so it just depends on, you'll have to help your child to get into, those things. So that's all I can say.
That's a good insight, actually. And I've also been saying this of late to some of our students. Every big city these days has an ice skating rink, and they sometimes even have ice hockey classes.
Ice hockey is big there, so the kids who are into sports will love it.
Right. So what I suggest is for students that go and learn this. So at least, you're not totally frightened when you first step onto that, ice skating rink, and, play ice hockey a little bit here.
I think, Richa, the problem has been because of COVID. Some of these, it's been a very on-off, the facilities, the stuff that the kids could usually do. I think that has been a bit of a challenge, and I'm glad that we have been yet to visit China, because our own tourist visa took a long time. So that's, I think, if you look at the visa aspect, I think US is much faster than Canada. So I'm yet to see what the whole
right. So a lot of support in the first year is required if you are sending your child to Canada. It's good to have people there, and of course we were lucky, we could visit him pretty frequently, so that helped.
Yeah, I think that's a great plus, because if you don't have family, like we have no family there, then it's it is challenging. But I think all the kids, and this would go across the board, I think kudos to all our kids. They just go there and they're there for each other. I think she's probably formed one of the best group of friends she ever has, and I'm sure it will be the same for your son as well. I think the social network and support system is great there.
Right. So thanks. That's actually very good to know. I was about to come to that question, that what's that social system like, international students, and, how friendly is the environment, and you seem to have answered that. Amrita has a question here. She's saying, is there a central repository which allows a child to track opportunities in the area of interest to develop their profile? Like, Shubhra was sharing that they've got this, and Nidhi was also sharing that there's an app through which you can go and explore opportunities. What kind of support is there for this, opportunities, projects, internships? I know your kids are maybe just starting out, but any insights yet? Amrita, are you asking for Canada, or are you asking while applying? You can unmute yourself and share. In general for profile building, okay, all right. So then in general for profile building, I would say no, there isn't a central repository. We've been toying with the idea of doing that as a business for a while, but something new is coming up all the time. So we do try to keep sharing opportunities as they come up. For art and design though, actually it's not so difficult to build a profile, because if you look at a lot of startups and NGOs, they often don't have people to help them build social media posts, to do basic artwork for them. And if your kid has some Photoshop, Canva, some basic skills, then they can do some of that stuff as an internship opportunity for someone. And the rest of it is of course a lot of portfolio. Some NGOs use art for therapy, some NGOs use art for cleaning up an area, like painting a wall, doing a mural somewhere. So those opportunities one has to look for, but there are many opportunities out there, I would say.
Paromita is leaving.
Yeah, I know. Paromita, thank you so much for being there. Get well soon. Thanks a lot. So Shubha is asking employment opportunities in Canada. Is there any advantage for those who graduated from Canada university versus US universities? Shubha, I will come to that in a while. Samya, do you have any insight yet? Because I know Kabir has only been there for a year, on how the employment opportunities piece works.
Yeah, so no, I do not have much insight on that, but I do know that, of course, University of Toronto, again, like another parent was saying, is very well networked. And right, even before they join, they have a career cell. So, they make sure that they obviously have good, like you said, these are the top universities. So, but I do not know how it compares with the US. I'm sure the skills are transferable, across. I know a lot of University of Toronto kids go to US and work as well.
Right. So, my perspective on that. Sorry, Akhil, are you saying something?
Yeah. So because we also applied in Canada, so I think there are opportunities, better opportunities if the student is based in Canada, because some of the colleges actually give option of co-op, where the student while graduating is getting work experience at the same time in the same country, and maybe it kind of helps in getting the PR process also fastened. So it definitely is an advantage.
Yeah. So one point here, thanks for reminding, is that in Canada they prefer Canadian experience and Canadian universities. It really helps if you're looking at settling down in Canada. They prefer that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Shubha, that's sort of the straight answer to your question, that yes, there would be US students who would get a job in Canada, but the preference will be for Canadian students. And plus, once in Canada in your second year of working, you can apply for a PR, and once you get a PR, you have a little more leeway on what kind of jobs to do. In the US, this optional practical training only allows you to work in the area that you graduated in. In Canada, since kids are always discovering themselves, there's a little more leeway to say, let me explore this, let me explore that, even after your graduation. So to that extent, if you intend to explore Canada, I do think that studying in Canada will be the preferred way to go for it. All right. So thank you guys for the Canada piece a lot. I hope we have addressed all the questions about Canada. Okay, I do think we've addressed most of them. If there's anything that I've missed out, please put it over there. We wanted to shift our focus now to the UK, and I know that a lot of parents are applying to all three, and then go on to work or study in the UK. So we've got two parents over here who've got students studying in UK. We have Sharmistha and we have Amrita. and both of them are studying in top universities. Both the students are really bright, focused, driven, delightful students to work with. So Sharmistha, if you can maybe first just give us a quick introduction about you and your kid.
Thanks, Richa, and it's so great to hear all of you. Good afternoon. I'm Sharmistha. My son Siddharth, he passed out of standard 12th in ISC board, and we were a little late into this entire thing of getting into international colleges, because I strongly believe in the Indian education system. I have done well due to that, and but somewhere in 11th, my son wanted to do law. He's very active in the months. He was the school captain of Bishop Cotton Boys here, which is very, very active in MAN in Bangalore. And so then also we were thinking about CLAT, and because National Institute of Law is in Bangalore, it suited very well our plan of him being in India and studying law. So actually we reached out to Richa, and glad that we did, after his 11th. So around February, March of when he would go on to 12th is when we decided we decided that, okay, if he wants, he can go out, but I didn't want him to go to US or Canada. The furthest I was okay to look for is UK. And so that is where the journey started. And he is currently doing law from King's College, London. He's in second year. First year, he could not go because of COVID, but I was very happy when we could pack him off last September. So I'll pause there, Richa, and
Yes.
maybe come back to the answers later.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Sharmistha. So Amrita is also here with us. Amrita, if you can give us a quick intro and overview.
Are you?
If you're speaking, Amrita, you are.
Yeah. Hi, everyone.
Go on.
Apart from speaking on the UK thing, I was just noting down everything for the US part. My daughter is going to leave in August. So I was getting all the information about the US. So it was 2-in-1 job for me. Okay, like I was little late in contacting you. That was 2019. And 2020, Vinayak was scheduled to leave. So he was not able to decide whether he will be going out or he'd be preferred to stay in India. That's a time when we contacted you. And during that time, he was doing his Wharton investment course. So, and that was a kind of competition. So he was able to choose his subject that he wants to take economics. So one side, it was settled that he'd be going for economics. So, and when you tested him out, you also said, fine, let him go for economics, he'll do good. So from there we started. We were little late, but we applied to Canada and UK. And he got through UBC and Warwick, the two which we had to choose, and he chose Warwick. UBC because he got the Okanagan campus, which was little out from the Vancouver. And being an economics student, we never wanted him to stay away from the city. So we decided, okay, let him go to Warwick. And then the journey was very simple. I never had to, whenever he was applying, I never had to look at his form filling or essay or anything. He and Richa, Kritika, everyone was handling it swiftly. Like, yeah, this is done. I generally used to ask, the form is gone. Yeah, last date is this. Fees has been done. That is mine. Take my card. You can pay the fees. Okay, form is done. I have not seen the essay also which he has written. I think being a boy, he wanted to handle everything with you. And mummy, you stay out. I'll handle it. So he did. And so when he went there, it was a COVID time. We were not given visa, so we couldn't go. And till date, we haven't. This is the time when I've got the visa and I plan to visit him for the first time. And he's in second year now, going to complete it, the second year. Adjusting over here, I'll say was very cool, very nice. It wasn't a problem at all for him. He made good friends with nationals and internationals, both. He is into various kinds of communities out there. The only problem which I would talk is cooking. They have to do their own cooking. They have the flat system, even the hostels. I'm talking about the Univ hostels, which they have, they call accommodation. That is, they have 8 flats and they have a kitchen. So every child has to do their own cooking. But for 2 years, they have done it, which as a mother, I feel it's tough. You know, cooking every day is tough for us. So I feel it's tough for him, washing utensils and everything. But they're doing it very nicely. I think they're learning it, and might be this will help him when he goes out to work. And let's talk about the internship. You have to outreach people. That everybody said. If you're sitting in your room, you will not get the internship. But if you're into communities, you're in regular touch with your advisor, the campus does help you to get the internship. So I think this is all for Vinayak. And if anybody has any other question, Warwick is a beautiful and a very nice university, and they're really doing good.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm happy.
Here also. Yeah, thank you so much, Amrita. We will come back with more questions to you.
Yeah.
One of the parents who's joined us, I wasn't sure, Rajiv, if you'll join us or not, so you were able to make it. Rajiv's daughter is also studying in UK. She had some excellent admits, including LSE, but then I think you guys chose Warwick finally, right?
That's right, Richa, yeah.
Yeah, Rajiv, so quick intro, perhaps, you know, if you can share.
Okay, yeah. So I'm Rajiv Singhal. So my daughter Roshni, she works with Richa and team. So she, we applied to UK and Canada. We did not try any other place. So her experience was quite good, although the timing was like the COVID timing. So she was in the 2020 batch. So she ended up deferring 1 year, and she actually went last year to Warwick. But she was quite lucky to get admitted in all of her 5 choices in UK. You know, she applied in LSE, Warwick, and Chester, and I think 2 other places. I can't recall right now. And in Canada, she applied to UBC and the Rotman Commerce, I think. So finally, she ended up going to Warwick. And can you still hear me?
Yes, Rajiv, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. There was some other picture on the. Okay, so she ended up going to Warwick. I think some of the things which tilted towards Warwick was, obviously Warwick was more of a campus university as opposed to LSE, which are like, few buildings in the middle of the city. And it all depends on personal preference. But and then we have lived in UK before, so we got a lot of industry input also, and they were quite positive about Warwick. Warwick has got a good industry connect and all. So finally, she chose Warwick, and she's doing accounting and finance over there.
Excellent. Yeah, I know.
So, Richa, I wanted to put one point for parents and students who are going to UK. So the UK offers are conditional offers, right? And which means that your final results mean a lot. So while my son was, as I said, he was preparing for CLAT, and we actually were not aware a lot about while Richa continued to tell us that IC is important, we knew he would good percentages. We were never doubtful of that, but we didn't know how high the percentage had to be. So my son got into Cambridge, but his ISC percentage that they required was 98%. Right, and he was doing multiple stuff because he was preparing for all of this, plus he was the school captain. He had his months and all of it. So it's only around Jan end that we became aware that it has to be 98%. And he studied, but finally he lost the Cambridge offer because he was around 95.7. So I think that is something I want to leave with parents, that in UK it is a conditional offer, and if you are looking for, King's had a much lower percentage, and so did you. I think what was the other ones? University of London, and so yeah. So you need to keep that in mind.
Yes, absolutely. And I remember Siddharth was a person with so much potential. Sometimes they don't give such a harsh, offer also, conditional offer. But I guess it's just Oxbridge, that Oxbridge is just a extremely challenging thing to apply for. And while we were so excited for Siddharth, while it's unfortunate that that didn't happen, but I do believe, Sharmistha, and I'm sure you've also seen that,
Yes.
I find that the student finds the right fit for themselves
They do.
really, and whatever happens is ultimately, I feel that you do your best in all directions, and then the right university chooses your child, and he's doing so well at King's. So, Sharmisha, I wanted to come back to you with one of the questions that parents have asked, which you had briefly touched upon in your introduction, that how easy is it to get jobs for Indian citizens. Now, before I pass this to Sharmisha, I want to tell you, Vandana, that see, this post-study work visa is a very recent thing. I think in 2018 or 2019, they reopened the post-study work visa. That is, you can work in the UK with your student visa for 2 years, right? So,
2021 September, they opened it again. So it's very new.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's very new. No, a little bit before that, Romy. But the thing is that none of our students right now have been able to avail of it, right? So I'm not quite sure how the job prospects will work, but we have spoken very deeply about it to a lot of the leading universities. St. Andrews claims that their students, even before the post-study work visa, they used to be able to place them and get jobs. Not all, of course, but they said a significant 40-50% of the students. Similarly with London-based, top London-based colleges, right? Like a UCL, a King's, LSE, Warwick, so Bristol, you might be able to get decent placements, is how I understand the data coming from there. And we've spoken to professors, I've spoken to a placement consultant in UK, so that's there. But Sharmishta, you were giving a good insight on how,
Yeah. So, Richa, I think what I see Siddharth doing is that from very first year, they keep applying for, various kinds of internship. And then there are vacation schemes, there are internship. He, for example, did one internship in the summers when he was here and he had not yet gone with a leading consulting firm. And there he became the brand ambassador of one of the top law firm. So it was very exciting for him because he was earning, and so he was very happy. But besides the point, he says that those will help him in the future to convert into jobs. But for law, after 3 years, there is another year of college that he has to do from, and I don't understand that very well, from some university, and only after that he will get a trainee contract for 2 years, which he will have to do, and then starts the actual job. So it is some distance away, Richa, and I really am not so well aware as to how it will happen. But all I hear from him is that he is applying to multiple law firms, and of course he participates again in all these moots and international moots and equivalent to months and others. So yeah, I think they are very aware from the very first year, about this job scene, which we were not in our colleges.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it is for us also slightly wait and watch situation as these students get out, for us to really see that, does the promise really bear? Having said that, there are industries where it is easier to get jobs, like financial sector is thriving in the UK really. So, that's a place where it's possible to get job. Corporate law is a place where it would be possible to get jobs. So I think it's a little bit sector dependent as well, right? Okay, so I want to address a question now to Rajiv, because it's a question about introverts, and I know neither Siddharth nor Vinayak will, qualify to be called an introvert. So, but Rajiv, maybe you can give us an insight into this, that how difficult is it for introverts to adjust into this UK college system, because getting into communities, etc., can be tough for them. What are the alternative ways that as an introverted student, somebody can adjust here?
Yeah, so see, if I talk in construct of Roshni, I don't know, we call her introvert or somewhere in between, but
somewhere in between, I guess,
yeah, yeah. But from her experience, now, I mean, she has adjusted quite well. Okay, I mean, obviously. Going from here, I think the tilt is towards the sort of Asian, British, and Asian first, but in the wider community, she has settled well. And to give her an example, just a few months ago, she became the head of finance in the Warwick Indian Society, which is the biggest society in the inner city. So it's a long drawn process going through the interview. Actually, the university children vote for you. They have to. It's like an election and all, and everything. So she got the post of head of finance in the Warwick Indian Society, which has got 2,000, 3,000 children. So I suppose she has done quite well. What I find that even though as a parent or as a relative, we may find certain traits of children, but when children land over there, when they have to manage everything on their own, the personality changes at a rapid race as well, because they have to do everything on their own, cook, clean, study, make friends, new friends, whatever. So I think we shouldn't worry too much about it. Children, obviously we will have some anxiety as a parent, but children generally do cope up quite well and find their own path.
Rajiv, thank you. That's a good insight. Suman, if I can just add something over there. So see, even when students are applying for colleges, you must have heard of the well-rounded profile and the pointy profile, right? The well-rounded profile is really for a kid who does a lot of everything. So, this is typically an outgoing kid who loves to, do a little bit of this. It has many different community groups that they interact with. Often those who have a tendency towards introversion love to go deeper into the one thing that they are mostly into. So then that student should, with that self-awareness, build a more pointy profile. Say that, okay, so I'm deep into, let's say, science or physics. So let me build my profile around this. Let me do research papers. Let me write about it. Let me do projects around this. Let me read about it. Because, even that comes out in your, applications, whether it is for jobs or whether it is for colleges. So especially during college, you can assist a professor in research in something. You can work on some lab. A lot of these universities will have student research opportunities. So then getting into the physics society, or just going deeper into your thing, maybe more up an introvert's street, and then you make your own little group and community as far as adjustment is concerned.
Rita, I'd also like to add here about students adjusting in college, in universities abroad. So international, it's very good for students to be in a very diverse environment, and because international students have this huge capability to connect across borders. So the student might be from Nigeria, might be from UK, might be from Canada, or might be from Pakistan, but they come together very well when they are studying abroad, because they have a commonness, which is that they all are international in that university. So if, they all are away from home, they're missing their food. So, they really come together very well. So if a student is in a diverse environment, internationally diverse, then that really adds to this to adjusting.
Yes, thank you, Poonam, that she's bringing her experience from the US, but I think this aspect would be common across different destinations. Thanks. So, Vandana, coming to your question, and Sharmistha, I'll ask you to weigh in on it in just a second. What she's saying is, I thought cutoff grades required for the courses are indicated on the college websites. Don't the conditional offers follow the same indicative grades? So, the answer is no. You know, the cutoff grades are indicated there, and some colleges might say that fine, you get 90%. So for some, conditional offers are so easy. Conditional offers have also been 85%, get 85% in your board. So they're pretty much saying that, you know, just show me that you're a decent student and I'll take you in, right? But when we are looking at the top colleges, when we're looking at a Cambridge, a UCL, a Imperial, that's when they have so many outstanding students to choose from, that sometimes, you know, they'll say, okay, I'll take this kid if he really proves his academic mettle, right? So if we want a conditional offer, then we really need to up our game when it comes to, you know, a research paper or doing something, you know, so out of the park, you know, really hit the ball out of the park during school, but then the conditional offers can sometimes be a little kinder. Sometimes it just can be that in here, how many people have applied. So let's say Cambridge is saying that we want a minimum 90% as a cutoff, but the conditional offer is all about 90%. I have never heard anyone get a conditional offer from UK, which is 92 is the lowest that I have heard, you know. So, it's the conditional offers not always in line with cutoff. Sharmistha, you want to add something here?
You're
Or
right,
Rajiv?
Raja. And also, I think in that particular year, there were some issues with the IGSC results also. It was that first COVID year. And I remember there was some confusion about the result. It was very tough results at the results of the current very tough the IGSC students. If there were, so maybe it was just a 98, maybe just an abnormal situation, or as Richa maybe say, Siddharth did not have too many research papers in his portfolio or stuff like that. But yeah, I just want students to take care of their 12th marks, because US and India do not require that.
Right, absolutely. Thank you, Sharmistha. You know, I don't know whether research paper is the only thing. Sometimes, you know, I'm not really saying that you can always game that thing. You know, sometimes what Oxford, Cambridge are looking for is really this very genius kind of child. And maybe for that, in that year, there was the kind of people that were applying, you know, that well-rounded profile that Siddharth had didn't cut it, though I really thought that he had a fantastic profile. But, you know, it's really not something that we can control very much. Even the grades, you know, ultimately I tell kids you have to do your best, and then whatever happens, we should cheerfully accept it, you know, because it's the right thing to do. Vandana,
so I want to say he's very happy, Richa. You are very right in saying that maybe, you know, King's is the right place for him, because it again gives him the opportunity to do multiple things.
Right, absolutely. And Cambridge can also be a very tough environment to survive in. You know, there are a lot of these people who have a very high self-opinion, you know, who are also very competitive, and sometimes it cannot be the most nurturing environment for a kid to be in, really. Vandana, coming to your second question of how common is it for students to be rejected after receiving conditional offer, you know, I will answer a slightly related question, that what happens if a student misses the conditional offer. So in top colleges, so there is no leeway. If you miss your conditional offer by half a percentage also, that's it. You know, they are not going to listen to any choo-choo that we might do. And, you know, as Indians, we are very good at doing the choo-choo. So, please dekh lo, thoda sa aage upar niche kar lo. But, you know, they are not into it at all. But once we go below that level, and, you know, we look at, you know, then there are other universities that don't get so many international students. They may be more forgiving in that sense, you know, and say that, chalo, okay, 1 or 2 percentage points here or there does not matter. They might say, take this test. Kritika, yeah.
I wanted to add here that Vinayak, Amrita's son, he actually did not make his math requirement for Warwick.
Yes.
And they agreed?
Yeah, they agreed.
Okay.
Vinayak was 90, he landed up at 87. in maths, but they just took him. Might be it was the COVID effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I was just going to say, I think Ritika clarified. I mean, conditional offer for some colleges have got two layers. One is your overall score, and one is like subject specific, that, okay, overall you need to achieve this much. And then like my Roshni was in IB, so overall you need 40 IB score, but in math you need 6 or 7. So generally in the overall score, they don't budge. If you miss the overall, it's very unlikely. But if you miss your subject specific condition that, you need to have 7 and you got 6 or something, or higher 6 or something, there's a high chance that they may consider it.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
I remember now, Cambridge had two conditions, 98% in ISC and CLAT score of 100 or below. So because Siddharth was no longer taking CLAT because, so we had to we wrote to them and they said, okay, fine, we don't need the CLAT score, but the ISC score stays. Yeah.
Right. The second layer, they can usually, they are okay.
You can overlook
if
or
it is,
agree to it.
Amrita, you were adding something there.
Yeah, the two conditions are there. So they might just overlook the subject condition and go for the final one. If the final one is higher, then that is the adjustment they do and they just take them.
Right, absolutely. Great. So, one of the questions that students, parents often have about UK is about, how welcoming it is to an international student, both in terms of adjusting on a college campus and in terms of internships, in terms of racism, in terms of, the presence of a lot of international students. So, any insights from you guys on that?
I think Warwick was very welcoming. There are international students also, but they're very welcoming. And I think, Richa, when students are around and parents are not there, so they are welcoming to each other. They have to adjust to each other. They have to stay there for each other. So even like in India, we might talk about something else and something this way or that way, but there the children are children and they're adjusting quite well. They're friendly to each and every one.
Right, wonderful.
Same here. London also is, I think, pretty multiracial and well integrated. And Siddharth, they have their best friend groups and even participations in committees or everything. I don't see any issue there at all. Yeah.
Wonderful. No, that's extremely heartening to hear from all of you, because that's, because not so many students are studying in the UK. You meet a lot of parents whose kids are studying in the US, but since UK is a slightly new environment, that's extremely heartening to hear from you guys. So, if there are any more questions for UK guys, please, these are experienced parents who can answer some of those questions for you. We had some questions that you guys had asked right in the beginning, and I will quickly just run through them. Kritika, we may need you to help with some of these questions as well. So one question over here is, what is the requirement beyond core academics for a UK undergrad in a field such as economics? Kritika, will there be any requirement at the undergrad level? Other than maths is a requirement in most cases, or are there places where you don't need maths for eco in UK?
In most places, you would need math. So for us to find a non-math course, it would be very difficult at least for an eco sort of a course. Maybe something like management and all, we can try and look for courses without math. But for eco, you definitely need math.
Wonderful. Another question that there was on the forms when you had filled it, well, the question was that how do you find the passions of the child? I have been learning how to do that over the past, I think, 18 years or so that I've been running this company. And what we do is first exposure. which is that we get a student to understand 70, 80 different options, and then we use a couple of psychometric tools, which we use through questionnaires, but also through a self-discovery based conversation with the student, so that we help the student make a self-estimate, and then we compare that self-estimate with a questionnaire tool. So this becomes a lens to look at your initial interest. So initially, when we told them about 60, 70 careers, they may have picked up 10 or 15 careers as a long list. Then we filter this long list through this lens of these couple of psychometric tools and come down to 2 or 3, which we string together in a flow chart, saying this is a primary option, this is a backup option, this is a long-term option, right? So that's what we do. It's still not a perfect fit, because, you know, I wish there was, or maybe I don't, that there was a blood test that, you know, someone could do to just tell you what the kid should do. But no, I don't wish that was there, because I think the beauty of being human is having options and is having flexibility and multiplicity in your personality. So any one tool will give you, any good tool would give you 20 options that are suited to you. So what we do in our Pathfinder career guidance program is that we help you to, through a process of conversation, also understand your personal situations, how is your story coming together. And then it's a 3.5 hour long program, and in the last 45 minutes parents join us as well, so that we can sit together and put together the idea of what should be a primary track, a backup option, and a long-term option. So that's the best that we've got just now. We can also, I can just share a link right now for my book, which is an overview of career options, which we've grouped under headers such as I like to influence people, I like to, you know, do creative things, just for kids to get a sort of a quick view into some of the things that might help them. Right. So Amrita has put a mail over here, saying a point over here saying there were summer enrichment programs mentioned in your mail. Would like to know more about that. So Amrita, we have programs called Prep Labs, which we actually started running in the COVID times. These programs, and I'll just quickly share my screen to show you. You know, these are some summer enrichment programs, and there are 7 tracks in this. One is a short academic research outline paper. These are 2-week programs, and the programs are really outlined for a student to prepare a project, right? So in animation, they are working with an animation professional who's worked on projects with Netflix and McDonald's and so on, to create a short animation clip, learn a basic software and create a short animation clip. Then with IoT and Arduino, they'll create an intelligent circuit that does something. We have podcasts going from last year. Some kids set up podcast channels that are just amazing and brilliant. Some of them is on teenage advice, some of it is on romantic advice. Really wonderful to hear for us as well. Short films, you know, last time we had 10 short films coming out of our prep labs that were all featured in the Footprint Film Festival. And this time, both podcast, filmmaking and the journalism track is being led by the founders of Footprint Film Festival. So you will be able to really work with them and showcase your work in the film festival as well. Then stocks and investment, we have a stock investment advisor who's going to be helping students understand Indian stock markets and make their own portfolio. So what we noticed, you know, in the last couple of years that we've run this, is that students really enjoy creating the projects, and this becomes a talking point in your statement of purpose. So then you can say that, you know, I did this, and this becomes something to flex and sort of like a signature project for you to showcase for admissions. Right, the age group, Amrita, is grade 9 onwards, grade 9 to grade 12. So it's for school students, grade 9 to grade 12 is what we are doing over there, really. Okay, so couple of other questions over there were, some of them, you know, like art and innovation, copywriting and content writing, you know, those are very specific questions, and we'll be happy to reach out to you specifically and try and do a quick call to see how you can build your copywriting and content writing. The journalism and the podcast tracks will be very, very useful for. One of the parents had asked that. Someone had asked for a good university with scholarship options for psychology undergraduate program. So, you know, that's sort of a general across countries. The US is the easiest for financial aid. You know, both Canada and UK don't really have any significant financial aid options. Canada has some need-based aid options, but merit-based aid is very, very competitive. There are just a few merit-based aid options similarly in the UK, and they're extremely competitive and not easy to come through. For need-based aid, you have to show an income which is 30 lakhs a year or less, which most of us don't qualify for. But that's sort of what it is for scholarship options. If he's interested in medical, how do we prepare? So, again, it depends from country to country. Kritika, can you give a quick overview on, what are, UK, US, and Canada for medicine?
So for US first, you need to do a pre-med course. So US does not take direct entries into medicine. So that means you'd actually have to do a different undergraduation related to medicine. It can be biology, neuroscience, anything related. And then after you finish undergrad, then you apply to med school.
The other maid.
Sorry, I'll just mute the person.
And same for Canada. Canada, again, you don't get direct entry into medicine. You have to do a pre-med program. However, for the UK, you can get direct entry into medicine. So they take very few international students, but we have had students in the past that have applied and gone for medicine to the UK. There is a test you need to take. That test you can only take once in the year. So you have to prepare and take that test. There's an interview process, and all UK medical applications, they go by October 15. So they have a slightly earlier deadline than your regular applications. So if you are interested in applying to the UK, that's something then we would have to discuss at length. But very quickly, that is the process.
All right. So I think that what is the ballpark figure for doing a 4-year under? So let me just quickly share screen and show you a sort of a comparison that we had created for different countries. This may be of value to some of you, and if you want, you can take a quick screenshot over here, and I can also just share this on the chat as well. Right, what we'd sort of done is tried to compare cost of attendance and the ease of getting a visa and ease of getting from visa to citizenship after, because those are the main concerns we find that parents have when choosing a destination, the cost and the prospects after that. So that's come to you on the chat, and if you want, you can download that. Any other questions, please feel free to ask us now, else we will reach out to you with for feedback, as well as share a recording of this session with you, and if you want, and there are any further thoughts, then you can ask.
Richa, I have a kind of comment and some question, because I think there are a couple of other Warwick parents there on the call. So the one feedback I got from Warwick is that for the first year student, the university doesn't have a proper support system to provide the, like to look after the internship and all. And children themselves, have to kind of look around and find. So I just wanted to find out if anybody has got any different experience, because I think Amrita ma'am was saying that, his son has got an advisor assigned or something for to look after this.
Yeah, he has an advisor from the very first year. And first year, definitely it was a COVID time and he came here. So the internship was online. And this year, he is going to do the internship, which is almost finalized. And he's going to do it offline. But now we are contemplating whether he'll do it in UK or here in India.
So this advisor is assigned by the Warwick University?
Yeah, by the university.
Okay. I don't know if it is a course-specific thing, because like my daughter is doing finance and accounting, and she was saying that there is no such provision to get any advisor assigned or something. So I need to go back and reach him.
He has an advisor, and one of my friends' son is also there. Now he's completing his 3rd year, and he also has. It was through him only we came to know about it. So the very first day he landed, I was after my son, you must meet your advisor first. You must meet your advisor.
Okay. And it's not a buddy system.
No,
it's a proper,
It's an advisor, and they help you in making the resume, the CV part also.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah. That's what we were looking, but we could, it's good feedback.
Just ask your daughter, or I can ask Vinay to get in touch with Roshni.
That would be great, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So they can just share it.
Yeah, I can share email or something like that.
Exactly. You can take my number from Richa and we can just connect.
Okay, sure,
Yeah.
sure. Thanks.
Absolutely. I
Thank-
hope you guys
thank you,
can
Richa.
get answers to that. No problem, Rajiv. We'll make the connection. Kritika, if you could just, you connect and make the connection there, please.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Vandana, I'm sharing my screen for your benefit. Can you see this? You can just take a quick screenshot or just connect. We'll connect with you later and share this with you as well. Okay, great. So thank you so much, parents, for joining us and sharing your insights. And thank you, parents, for asking all your questions so openly. I'm sure there were not all your questions. I'm sure questions will keep coming to you as they, as the days pass. We will also reach out to you. And at that time, also, you could address some of that to us. Thank you, Amrita. Thank you, Rajiv. And thank you, Sharmistha. It's really, really wonderful that you are able to give us this real first-hand view of the world out there. And all the best to all the children applying. Best from I Know Me and best wishes to everybody.
Thank you, Richa. You're working for children and we are always there.
Yes, Richa and Priyanka, thanks so much for everything that you did. I didn't know anything. So that's happened because of the two of you. So can't thank you both enough.
All the best to everybody. Yeah.
Thank you, Rajiv. Thanks, guys. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.